Greetings to everybody out there in the interwebs. Hope you're having a great day, and welcome to another episode of Bus Thoughts with Brother Beard. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time of day you're watching this video. I'm Brother Beard, and that is my school bus. On this show, you should know by now, I like to take a few minutes every day and share some of the thoughts that I have while I'm driving the bus up and down the road. And I'm actually was thinking today about reading. More specifically, I was debating with myself whether or not I should continue reading a book series I've reading now, or if I should maybe branch out, pick up another book, because, well, in my house, I tell my wife all the time, it's not hoarding, it's a library. I have a huge amount of books that I have not yet read, and I seem to keep going back to the same ones over and over again just because I love them so much. But in reading, there's really no trick to it. You just have to set aside the time, sit down, and do it. And I am a fan of big, thick books, as you can see there. This is a book in the Wheel of Time series. It's an epic fantasy series that I absolutely love. I've read the series multiple times, and people ask me all the time, how do you read a book like that? How do you read these books that are hundreds and sometimes over 1,000 pages long? And you sit down and you do it. You just make the decision, you make the commitment that you're going to read. Now, obviously, longer books take longer to read. If you commit and say, okay, I'm going to read 10 pages a day, well, that can mean that you can get a 100-page book read in 10 days, a little over a week and a half, not bad. But when you're talking about a 1,000-page book, well, now we're getting into summertime. You're talking about 3 months to get that puppy read. But it's all about spending the time. It's about being consistent, and it's about really getting into it. And what I've found is, well, the more I read, the more I enjoy reading, the more I want to read. Whether it's the escapism, or it's just the opportunity to go off to another world, or to enjoy the story, or whatever it is. But I'm typically, I'll have several books going at once. I've got the fantasy book that I'm carrying. I typically am reading a nonfiction book. I've got a book on my Kindle. I got a book I've got on my phone. I'm listening to a different book. It's kind of an addiction a little bit. But the point is, if you want to read, you're going to find time to read, and you're going to make that effort, even if you're only able to read for 10, 15 minutes at a time. But if you're consistently doing that, then you'll be able to chop down that big old tree and read a 1,000-page book or whatever it might be for you. And of course, in reading, you also need to take time to read the most important book, which is obviously the Bible. In Psalm 119, a little bit of trivia there, Psalm 119, longest chapter in the Bible. Go ahead, look it up sometime. You'll be kind of impressed about how long that one psalm is. But in Psalm 119, in verse 97, which is just a little over halfway through the psalm, by the way, the psalmist writes, "Oh, how I love your law. It is my meditation all day." Of course, what he's talking about is the law of the scriptures, the law of the Lord, which he handed down through his prophets, through Moses and the others, and it was written down. And that's how you and I can learn more about God's law, is by reading it. But it's not only the reading. The psalmist says that he meditates on it all day. He doesn't just read it, he thinks about it. Now, there's a very large difference between reading and comprehending, because you can read something with your brain turned off and have no clue what just went through your mind. You may as well not have read anything. But when you're reading and you're engaged and you're thinking about what you're reading, and even better, you go back later in the day or a few days later and you think about what you were reading, and you try to mull it over, and you try to connect it to other things that you've read before, especially when it comes to the Bible. And that's what he's talking about. He's talking about not only reading the Bible, but meditating on it, thinking about it, and being consistent, because that's how we learn God's law. You can't just sit down and read the Bible for 5 hours straight on Sunday and then expect to know the law of the Lord inside and out. It would be better if instead of spending 4 hours one day, you spend 20 or 30 minutes every single day. Take it in smaller doses, and not only taking it in the smaller chunks, but in going back and thinking about it. Maybe, you know what? Let's go back and let's read that again. Let's check that and make sure that I understand what I am reading. And people all the time, they want to read the Bible, but they just, oh, it's such a big book and it's so long and it's going to take forever. Yes, it will take a long time because it is a very, very long book. I have a copy of the Bible on an audio book, and it's something like 98 hours. That's a straight through listen. But if instead of taking that 98 hours over the course of a week or a couple of weeks, you spend 15 minutes a day, guess what? In a year, you can read the entire Bible. And then you can start over next year and read it again and again and again. The key is consistency, and the key is having your brain turned on and engaged, paying attention to what you're reading so that you can not only learn the law of God, but that you can learn to love the law of God as you meditate on it, as you hide it in your heart so that you can know it better. And by knowing God's law better, you know Him better. You build your relationship with Him, you get closer to Him, and you strengthen your faith. And so it doesn't matter that we're at the midpoint of April or getting towards the end of April and, oh, well, I can't start a year-long Bible reading program because we're already 3.5 months into the year. That's okay. Go ahead and start. Maybe you can get caught up, or maybe you just read through and you get done April of next year. It'll be okay. But as I said, consistency is the key. Going to it every day, reading it every day, and then thinking about it, meditating on it, trying to glean as much as you can from it. And don't worry if you don't understand everything, because that's the amazing thing about God's Word, is that it's alive and He will translate it to us. He will help us to understand the things that we don't understand. Until next time, love y'all. Look forward to seeing you again real soon.